Our next guest is revolutionizing the commerce industry as India's leading e-commerce platform. With a recent billion-dollar round of funding in July, another $700 million in funding in December. More is on the way for Flipkart. So what is next for this company? Puneet Soni is the Chief Product Officer at Flipkart. Mukesh Bansal is the head of Flipkart's commerce platform. Guys, it's good to see you this morning.
Good to see you too.
Puneet, let's talk product first, because the company is turning 8 years old this year, moving into furniture, online advertising. What does Flipkart look like in year 8?
First of all, Flipkart is a very, very large company. It's valued over $10 billion and has raised almost $2 billion last year. A key thing about that is to make sure that we have a lot of focus. Otherwise, we can go in a lot of different random directions. I think India is a very, very mobile-centric economy. Almost 80% of all transactions happen on mobile. And so it's very important to think of product in terms of mobile, in terms of how people will use it on a mobile phone. And so I think experiences in e-commerce have hitherto always been desktop-oriented. A key focus will be to actually make sure that we can think of e-commerce and revolutionize it in terms of building a fully mobile interface. Second, you don't really shop alone. Most of the time, you actually have people around you. So it's important to think about what social means for e-commerce. A billion people are going to show up online for the first time. We'll have to spend a lot of time thinking about how they're going to use their phones for the first time. Who will they have along with them when they actually use these devices and buy things? And then all the other verticals that we'll want to go to over time. So it's going to be very exciting.
Mukesh, Puneet just talked about the temptation to go in every single direction, but the need to have focus. As you grow, you've said that Flipkart could be the first $100 billion internet company in India. How do you resist that temptation?
I think we just, by focusing on commerce, we can be $100 billion business. The retail in the country is over $600 billion. Next 5 years, it will grow to $1.2 trillion. And there is hardly any offline organized retail. Most of the growth in retail in the country is happening through online. A lot of brands are becoming online only. Last few years, we have seen many of the offline stores have stopped expanding offline and becoming online. In some categories, we have as much as 10 to 15% market share of the entire category in the country. And in many ways, we are still in the early days of e-commerce. Whole of e-commerce is today powered by about 25 million people. We see that number growing to 250 million over the next few years. So by only focusing on commerce, we really think we can be a $100 billion organization a few years from now.
Puneet, John Ford here. I want to talk to you about what brings you to Flipkart from Google. Over the years, I've probably talked to dozens of executives and entrepreneurs with an Indian background, and you were educated both places. Your career growth has been in Silicon Valley. Now you're building a technical team in Silicon Valley. Lots of Indian entrepreneurs and executives I've talked to over the years have considered going to India, building a company there. What is it that makes you want to build a technical team in Silicon Valley? I assume it's because the U.S. experience is important. Why?
A lot of people ask me this question. It's pretty interesting. I was born and brought up in India. I've spent a lot of my time here in the US, and I actually have no personal reasons to go to India. I'm going there because it is actually literally the best professional opportunity out there at this point of time. I think the country is exploding. It's going to go in many different ways. And if you're going to take 20% of the world's population and then take them to the next level, what could be a better opportunity? So that's kind of how I thought about it when I was going through the process of evaluating Flipkart and the opportunity. Now, once you actually start working on it, you realize there's a lot of different aspects of how we'll have to build the tech stack that can't be just centered around India. So, of course, our market focus will be on India, but in terms of our presence, we're going to actually build up a presence here in the Valley. We're going to staff it with all sorts of amazing product, design, engineering talent. We're going to focus on things like data sciences, data analytics, recommendations, and whatnot. I think this is the way globalization is going to go. We're going to have to tackle all sorts of market across the world, and then we'll have to come back here and actually build presence here and employ all sorts of amazingly smart people. So it's a very compelling opportunity. It's an opportunity to change the world. When India rises, the rest of the world will rise with it. It's an opportunity to see how large swaths of the unorganized retail and commerce in India become organized and start seeing some of the benefits that we here in the US have been seeing for decades now.
You know, you guys aren't the first company that's looking to capitalize on the engineering talent in Silicon Valley, as well as the growth inherent in the India market that is just growing exponentially. Mukesh, I'm just wondering how you view the competitive landscape. Immediately after you guys announced your funding in December, Amazon came behind you and said, well, we're deploying $2 billion of capital in our infrastructure in India. Do you feel Alibaba and Amazon close by in the competitive landscape? How do you fight that off?
Yeah, so Indian e-commerce space is definitely heating up. It's growing very rapidly, over 150% year over year. At Flipkart, we currently have 50% of the market share, and we've been able to hold on to the market share. We've seen Amazon come up and be aggressive in the market, but really not made any dent to our market share. In fact, last year was one of our best year yet. As Puneet mentioned, we raised $2 billion also last year. We also been in the space for last 7 years, so we understand the market really well. We have by far the most trusted brand in the country, very loyal customer following. We have developed our entire supply chain from scratch. In India, a few years ago, it was not possible to do cash on delivery or to deliver packets in the remote parts of the country. So we've painstakingly built all of that. Now with the addition of Puneet and building a pretty strong product tech organization, in some ways, we are in a fortunate position to build our products from scratch for Indian context, for mobile-only world, versus let's say desktop orientation is a bit dated in Indian context. So we are confident about our position, but yeah, we do expect all the big players around the world to be present in the Indian market.
Puneet, I want to get in one last question. There's a flood of low-cost cell phones, many of which you guys are selling with your partnership with Xiaomi and Motorola in the past. How does that influence the way that you are building your product, and what kind of opportunities does that open up as these smartphones for under $200 US start really flooding into India even more?
It's phenomenal trend. What it's doing is bringing hundreds of millions of people first time in the possession of a smartphone with internet connectivity. So we believe most of our market over the next few years will come from these folks. And yes, it has a huge implication of how we build product, because these are going to be devices with low processing power, low memory, etc. So we need to have lightweight version of our products which work on relatively smaller bandwidth, smaller device, and part of our product roadmap will ensure that we have right kind of offering for these devices. But next 200 million people from India who will come online will be coming through these devices.
Puneet, Mukesh, we appreciate your time this morning, coming to us from Silicon Valley today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For a company that's registered to be a public company in Singapore, perhaps we could be seeing them as a public company very soon. We will see.